Okay, here we are on another BYOG journey and expert session. I want to welcome Autumn Smith first. Hi, Autumn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me be here. I'm really
Oh
excited.
God, I know they're going to love this because in just a little background, I don't know much about Autumn. This is the first time that we've actually met and spoken. We know similar people and have aligned in our beliefs and our philosophies on health. And we just kind of, mesh with that. And you're going to learn more about her. And I want her to actually share her journey with you. I'll give you a little background, but I want her and Autumn, I want you to fill in the gaps, because as we were talking before I hit record, is like this group is for people who want to, break free from a broken medical system, be their own guarantee for their health and their life, and learn how to do that, using these healthy lifestyle principles. In the group, I talk a lot about mindset, nutrition, detoxification, sleep. Because my background is in chiropractic, I talk a lot about spine and correcting that and how it affects your overall health. But I want you to speak about like the journey you went through. I know you went through some health issues ever since you were a teenager, digestive issues. And you know what? Big surprise, medicine didn't really help. As we both know, that tends to happen. So take us through that journey that you went through, because I know there's a lot of gaps to fill in with the emotions that you felt. And, again, a lot of times you feel like you're never going to get the answer. But go ahead, Autumn. Thanks for being here. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you again for this opportunity. I'm really excited. And yeah, it all started when I was around, I'd say 10 years old. I grew up in a small town in Montana. I had loving parents. I mean, a wonderful life. But when I started having, these like intermittent pain episodes, I'd call them, where I would be so bloated, I looked pregnant after meals. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I would have like a rock in my stomach and just like this excruciating pain. And one time I had my mom take me to the emergency room because I was sure that something was very, very wrong. And they just said, "Oh, you've got IBS. You've got irritable bowel syndrome," which means we don't really know. We've ruled out any major pathology, but other than that, we don't know what you have, and it's stress related, and take some Beano and some Gas X. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I did that. It didn't work. And I just continued along this path. And because the pain, I figured, okay, no one can really do anything. I started to have some mental health issues as a result of the unpredictability of my life. And we now know there's like this gut-brain connection. And sometimes just the message that something is wrong can change your emotional state, which is something I think contributed to my development of many mental health issues when I became a teen, in addition to, a lot of challenging things that come along with just being a teenager. And so then I developed depression, anxiety. I was a dancer, a ballerina, specifically eating disorder made an appearance. And because I went the traditional route there as well and tried pharmaceutical interventions that literally made me feel like a zombie. I went from this like excited and emotionally expressive person to like, I always said I had one thought an hour. And that's how I felt, like literally. And so that didn't work for me. And I got off of those meds and decided that all I had left was substance abuse. So I drank and I smoked and I tried all sorts of drugs, whatever I could get my hands on to kind of calm me down, numb my pain. And then I just started to internalize the belief that there's something wrong with me and I'm broken, less than, and I'm just going to have to manage rather than thrive in this life. And so I did what I think anyone does at that point. They suffer in silence. They smile anyway. They try and move on. And I did that. And I actually did that pretty well because I completed college. I became a professional dancer. I started doing a celebrity fitness training with the Tracy Anderson method. I was ripped. I mean, I was in such great shape. But when my husband met me, moved in with me, and saw the reality behind the facade and that I was in a lot of pain pretty much every night, he said, "Why are you living like this?" And I just said, because no one has an answer for me. No one's ever had an answer for me. And so he decided that wasn't good enough for him and his new wife. And so he just got on the internet after we visited some doctors down in Los Angeles where we were living at the time. And he found a few people doing what was called the paleo diet and suggesting that what you were eating might be contributing to the way that you feel, which was a novel concept at the time. So we changed our diet. And essentially, like you said at the beginning, we went on an elimination diet, and which was the paleo diet. We eliminated processed foods. And in 30 days, my digestive issues were gone, which I could not believe. I was so excited by this that I quit my job as a fitness trainer, and I told 200 of my friends about it. I wanted to do an experiment, got them all involved, gave them the resources, and everyone had such profound results. I mean, whoever finished it, the people who actually completed my 30 days, that I decided, wow, this is worth a career shift. So I quit my job as a fitness trainer, went back to school and got my master's and then several other certifications. I'm getting my doctorate right now just to help people understand and help me figure out how to articulate just how powerful dietary change can be. And there are other little pieces to the puzzle, but essentially I did exactly what you're teaching these people to, is to question anyone who tells you there isn't an answer and that you aren't your own best guide, and to be your own advocate and be your own doctor through various principles that I'm sure that you talk about. But that's
wow, that's exactly what I wanted everybody to hear. And so many great nuggets there. I feel like it's too common of like issues, depending on, again, you had the bloating and the digestive issues and, you know, suffering in silence. You're like, oh, there's nothing else I can do. You know, I had migraines when I was 13 years old. That was the first, you know, my first, well, even back before then, I would get sick all the time with colds 4 or 5 times a year, stuffy nose, runny nose. And at the time, again, I'm from a small town myself in Michigan, where we had home cooking, and it was all good. And I didn't realize how diet affected it until probably about 7 or 8 years ago, you know, like 2014, 2015, you know, growing up on milk, you know, my family were farmers and dairy farmers and stuff like that. So, you know, and I remember our health coach at the time, like in the office that we have now, again, this is, I think, in 2014, where she's like, you know, dairy is probably even more inflammatory than grains. And I'm like, what? You know, it's that belief that we have. And I think logically, we know food and nutrition has a huge effect on how we feel. But sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking, well, that can't be for me. You know, that it can't have that profound effect on me. Now, the BYOG community, I think they understand, and we help to reinforce that over and over again by, you know, me bringing you on here and other experts, because I love to reinforce the journey. I need that reinforcement myself, you know, through my coaches, the coaches that I have. We think because we've heard it once or 10 times that now it's part of our lives, and it might not be. One thing that you mentioned was, you know, well, there's multiple things, but the mental health issues as a teen, you know, that hits home with me. Not me personally as a male, but I have 3 teenage daughters right now. And, you know, on top of the hormonal issues that they're going through and the brain changing issues that not issues, but the just normal development, if we don't have optimal sleep and nutrition, or, as you know, again, there's treats and stuff, you know, Christmas is coming up, but, you know, exercise, then you know what? You're going to get what you're going to get. We used to tell them when they were kids, you're going to get what you're going to get, and don't throw a fit, when they were, you know, younger. So yeah, just looking at that and just making myself aware and have that top of mind. And then the management, like when you said, people tell you just manage it. Oh, I can't stand pain management. Like that word of pain management or symptom management. How about we just learn the strategies, I don't like the word tips, but the lifestyle on how to live a healthy life, and our body will take care of it. You experienced that, the 30 days. And as you were saying that, look at what happened to you, right? In 30 days. And this happens, I would say, you know, comment below, BYOGers, if you've done this before, where you've had to do it multiple times. Where, as you said, you got 200 of your friends around, said, let's do this. And for the ones that finished it, because, I mean, within a week, a lot of times you will feel a difference. Within a few days, you feel a difference when you cut out these common inflammatory foods. Now, for me, it was to find out what are the main, you know, instigators with that. it doesn't mean you have to cut them out completely. You can go back to them, but you have to just know what consequence you're going to be expecting. So, I mean, I would love, and you mentioned your husband, his name's Chaz, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Chaz.
So, I mean, I love that story because he's like, and a lot of us suffer in that silence. I know I do, because we think we can handle it ourselves. We're healthy and fit.
Right.
Or
I
we're
look,
fit.
yeah.
We're fit, but not always healthy because our function is not there. So,
Mhm.
I'm curious because you have, how old is your son now?
He's 6.5.
6.5. Now, I want you to go into even like his health. Now, how has that helped you with this? Because I know this will get into the strategies that you implement, even taking us through a day in the life of the Smith family. Like, when do you wake up? When do what do you have for breakfast? If you have, well, breakfast could be at noon. It doesn't have to be right when you get up. So I would love to know that, because that will give the, like, just, people don't have to mimic it, but it's good to hear what people who are healthy and fit actually do, and they can pick up the strategies, take what they want, try that out, and then leave the rest for later.
Yeah. Oh no, I would love to share that. And I want to start with the foods that I found to be most problematic for me. Grains, gluten. I'm one of those people for whom gluten is a problem even today. And I am an advocate of, taking things out and then experimenting and finding what works for you. Gluten just doesn't work for me. Dairy, also not great food for me. I wear an Aura, so I measure my heart rate variability on a daily basis. And it takes a significant hit, which is not a good thing whenever I have dairy. So, and sugar, of course, and then garlic for me, because we can have weird sensitivities to foods that are healthy for other people. And so garlic is one of my triggers, specifically for really intense breakouts. So once I took those foods out, I kind of lived my life in, more of a whole foods diet, really high quality animal products. And my son does the same. Sometimes he gets bummed out because the other kids are eating other things, but he's pretty good about understanding the relationship between, hey, we get a choice. There's not a moral issue with food. There's not good and bad. There's just, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to feel a certain way. And so we try to really focus on that. So we wake up, I mean, he is an early riser, probably about 5:30 in the morning every day, no matter what time he goes to sleep. And then when it's light out, we try and get the light into our eyes, and he understands I'm teaching him about the circadian rhythm. We try and sleep. He sleeps 10 hours. I sleep at least 8 every day when I can. And then for breakfast, I'll always make him, like this morning, for example, we had some pastured sausage and some mango, and I think like a risotto, like a rice that we had from last night's dinner. So we repurpose it. We have very savory rather than sweet breakfasts pretty much across the board. And I had just like a little matcha tea with some MCT oil, because I don't eat a lot in the morning. Now that's changes throughout my cycle. I'm more apt to not fast in the later half of my cycle, but we can talk about that later or not. And then at lunch, I always pack him, I get fiber, so some sort of whole food, fruit or vegetable. And then I get adequate protein. Always adequate protein is the mainstay in all of our meals, 20 to 30 grams of protein. And then some fat, he gets a lot of olives, nuts and seeds, things like that, really high quality source of fat. And then dinner is usually, again, a really high quality source of protein, and then fruits and vegetables. And then when we do a dessert, it's, some pears or apples with cinnamon and a little honey and stuff like that, or some dark chocolate. And we do, red light therapy and saunas, and we have this whole thing. But know that I've started this journey like 10 years ago. And so start where you are. I just add one thing probably every month or two, and then all of a sudden you're living an entirely different life. But yeah, just basically any of these changes, just doing an elimination diet, or finding the foods that are trigger for you, or wearing an Oura ring so that you get feedback, or all of these things can be very useful.
I mean, I think you and I are very similar in the fact that the elimination diet, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but we think we're like giving up all this stuff, right? All the good food. And again, I thought that too, like I had that impression, but I didn't start there. Like I had initially gave up like gluten and, grains, but then I went all the way and like, all right, let's do an elimination diet, do like the Whole 30 type program where, because my wife was having, it was very similar to you, like the bloating. She would eat anytime, and we found out through an elimination of, cutting out legumes and grains and gluten and for 30 days, sugar, like basically processed foods, those for 30 days, her bloating went away. And when we reintroduced like dairy, that was her trigger. And, since then we can eat some dairy, but it's not ice cream 3 or 4 times a week, or, cheese on everything. And substituting is not, I don't think it's very difficult. Like I'm fine with like non-dairy cheese and, or just not even cheese on pizza. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, it's what you get not even used to, but you train your brain to be like, okay, if I have a regular pizza with the cheese and the crust, to me, that's more pain than pleasure, because I know what it's going to be costing me if I do that even once. I mean, maybe a piece here and there, but gluten-free, dairy cheese pizza, no cheese, fill it with vegetables, some nice pasture-raised sausage or something like that. And to go back to what I was saying is like, people get this impression like, oh man, but then they might even be afraid that what if it actually works? How am I gonna change my lifestyle with it? How is my significant other going to be on board with this? And those are all real fears that we have to address, because it's we live in a different type of society right now where we have everything at our fingertips. In a day, we can get any food that we want delivered to us. Mm-hmm. So I like the elimination diet, like a 30-day. If BYOGers, if you're listening or if you're hearing this, just look up Whole30. That's the best one. I have something, if you're interested, I can show you that too, where it just takes you through 30 days, eliminate what you can eat, what you can't, and really focusing on what you can eat. I like to do that versus what you can't. Again, it's all about the mindset and retraining it. So yes, I'm totally on board with that. But yeah, so this has led you, and I'm not even sure if I mentioned this yet, to found a company with your husband. I don't even, see, that's why I love this. I want to bring people on here who I want to support because I love what they're doing and I eat it. So Autumn and her husband, because of these issues and because they weren't able to find like nutrient dense food that had fiber and tastes good. So they actually created a company called Paleovalley. And you might have heard me on here talking about it before, but I had brought these. Autumn just told me that these are out of stock right now. The chocolate superfood bone broth protein bars, and then the beef sticks. So I have a subscription to these. I've had it for like 5 or 6 months. 1 month I get beef sticks, another month I get the bars, because my family and I, we love the bars, we love the beef sticks. But take us through that. I know you guys looked and like, there's just not anything like this out there. So tell me about that.
Yeah, it all happened when I was lucky enough, Tracy Anderson, when I worked for her. This is a fitness method based on dance. And so Jennifer Lopez was one of the clients. And so Jennifer, I would work with her and she said, hey, do you want to go on a world tour with me? It's my first world tour. And I was like, oh, I had just been married, but it's just not the thing you say no to. So I agreed to the 7-month world tour and I had just reclaimed my health, right? So I just found the paleo diet. Now, when I was on this tour, sometimes we were in one country every day and then we would move. And then sometimes one day, 2 countries in a day, but I didn't have the tools. I just didn't have the tools. I was eating pistachios and nuts because that's what I found in the airports, and apples because I could always find them in the lobby. But sometimes the meals would be, like $25 for an omelet. I think I paid $100 for a sushi roll down in Venezuela. So anyway, it was like, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have the tools. And so when I got back to America, I was like, you know what? I'm going to create the tools for people like me who don't want to be in the kitchen and also want to be, but want to feel great. And so my husband and I decided to start with a meat stick because we thought that was really important. People are often under eating protein. And then I had come across some research that grass-fed beef in particular was important for depression and anxiety, in that it had protective effects. So I was really on board with that. But I did actually try the grass-fed beef sticks on the market when I was in Paris. And I had my husband bring me a suitcase when he came over. They just still gave me digestive upset. And I consider myself kind of a canary in the coal mine. I'm thinking, you know what? I had healed my digestive system. Things didn't really trigger it that often. So there must be something about these beef sticks. And when I found out how they were made, when I came back to America, I found out they use this ingredient called encapsulated citric acid. And it's really just genetically derived, modified corn. Then they coat it in hydrogenated oil. Then they melt it into the product. And they only have to label it citric acid because it's the industry standard. And so in your citric acid, which you probably think is from lemons and limes, is actually hydrogenated oils and GMOs. And so I was like, you know what? I think that's probably part of the reason I don't feel good when I have these healthy beef sticks. And so we got on the phone and just tried to find people who doing it in a more traditional manner. Fermentation was the way I wanted to do it because our ancestors had been fermenting meat for a long time. So it took a while, but we found people willing to ferment the beef sticks. And so we were like, yes, we're gonna start with a beef stick. And we did, and we just added organic spices. And then through time, I realized, beef sticks aren't the only thing that people are going to need. And so we've just expanded our product line. We also have a company called Wild Pastures that kind of breaks down the barriers for receiving or being able to afford and kind of find really high quality regeneratively raised meat in America. And we started a burger restaurant in Boulder with regeneratively raised burgers and fries cooked in tallow and no sugar in the whole place and all that stuff. So yeah, we've just become committed to meeting consumers where they are, trying to get them high quality options, no matter what kind of life they live, that will help them feel their best.
And I only showed you two of the products. What other things do you have?
Well, we have turkey sticks, pastured turkey sticks. And I don't know if you have anyone on AIP, the autoimmune protocol, but they are AIP friendly. And then of course we have the superfood bars. We have a bone broth protein powder, which is just different because it's not collagen that is derived from hoods and hides and processed heavily. It's just literally bones and water broken down into something that you can just stir into water and add, collagen and protein and minerals. And then we have an apple cider vinegar complex, which is great for people with digestive stuff because it helps you avoid damaging your tooth enamel. We have, I think, the most potent natural vitamin C on the market because most vitamin C is derived from genetically modified corn as well. We have a whole mushroom complex. There's a lot of starch in most medicinal mushroom supplements because it's grown on what's called mycelium, and then they don't separate it. And so often there's about 50% of the supplement is actually just starch. And so we wanted to do a whole mushroom supplement. And so we did that. We also have a turmeric. We have hot drinks coming out. I mean, so many products in the works, but those are the ones we're working with currently. And turmeric, an organ complex too. Organ meats are nature's multivitamins, but in today's day and age, we don't eat them. And I had trouble doing it when I got pregnant. And so we put them into capsules from grass-fed animals. So you can literally eat multivitamins that are in whole food form. That's kind of what our company's about, is that synergy that happens in a whole food matrix that doesn't always happen with synthetic supplements. And so how can we bring those foods to people that they might otherwise not be able to access and give it to them without taste?
Yeah. See, this is so cool because like that journey right there of like business and how to introduce this stuff, that's like our health. For example, you started with one thing. You didn't try to start with all the different products that you have and master all of them. No, you started with the beef sticks, the meat sticks, and you perfected and mastered that and created a habit, essentially like how we want people to do with their health is because all too often we get in this mindset, well, in January is coming, right?
Yeah.
New resolutions. And there's a reason why 92% of people who set resolutions actually fail. It's because they try to just change everything all at once. They try in it. If you're in the mindset already where, you know what, I'm tired of my life the way it is, my health the way it is, and you can do that, great. But most of the time you can't. That's why 8% of the people can possibly take one thing at a time, learn the habits, learn that one thing that we've talked about this whole time, and then go from there. And this is, I don't want the BYOGers. You can think what you want, but this is not a commercial for Paleovalley. I love how you were teaching as you go through that. And if there's something out there that I think you should try out, and then I'm going to recommend it. That's just plain and simple. I would never recommend anything that I wouldn't take myself. Like, I forgot about the organ complex. Yes, I love that. Not many people like eating liver or spleen or heart or whatever. So I've taken these capsules before. It makes it a lot easier to get those nutrients in your body, like the nutrient denseness of those, the density. That's what we're looking at. How much nutrients can you get in your body without eating 2 heads of broccoli? 'Cause that's not very appetizing. It's funny because you mentioned going on tour with Jennifer Lopez, and I could have all sorts of questions about that, but I will save that for off air.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, yes, my wife teases me because that's like, I've heard stories about her, and I think maybe a lot of them are true. Like, there's how hopefully she never sees this, or maybe she will. But yes, maybe she's a little, picky about what she likes and this and that. But this, I love how you took us through because so many people have that issue when they travel. Like you mentioned, eating nuts,
Yes.
the airport. And well, airport nuts aren't great anyway, in apples from the hotel. But that's why I like these too. When we go traveling, I take a handful of my paleo food bars, some other healthy snacks, nuts. And so then if I'm caught in a pinch, I'm not in an environment where I'm just grabbing for, cookies and other unhealthier bars. So yes, I love that. Now, I would love, lastly, just, is there anything else that you'd like people to know about you, your family, like almost like words of inspiration of basically how they can do it, how they can be their own guarantee for their health, for their life? Again, I don't want to, when people ask me that at the end, when we covered so much already, it's hard to know, but even if it's something that you said already, just to reinforce.
Yeah, you know what? I think the most powerful thing, and I always quick to attribute all of my changes to food, but I don't think that's really what happens. I think me seeing that what I did mattered was the big change, because I doubted that before. And I think me now seeing my symptoms as messages, as my body trying to communicate with me, and just to say, hey, what I'm doing right now isn't working. And you have the power to change it. And so I think when it comes to being our own guide, it's just kind of getting to know yourself. I did not know myself. I didn't know what I like to do. I didn't know my desires. I didn't know which foods worked for me and which foods didn't. And this world practically keeps us away from that, because we're constantly stimulated. We're constantly told that we are not our own medical authority. And I think realizing that we are, and that our body is working for us, that the world is working for us, and that we have to figure out what works for us, because no one else will do it and no one else can know. And so paying attention, like doctor said, just taking one small habit at a time, changing that for a month, then moving on and seeing what else you can accomplish. Pretty soon you're living an entirely different life. But I think just believing in yourself and knowing that you are the only one who can make the positive changes and know exactly what's going to move you in the right direction is more valuable than I think anything else I've done.
That was beautiful. That is exactly what I love that you ended on, because that's essentially your mindset.
Yeah.
You get to a point where enough is enough.
Yeah.
And just, that was absolutely beautiful. I'm not going to talk anymore because I want to leave it at that. But I thank you for, joining me, Autumn, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wilpar. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope we can do this again. And I'm going to have you on my podcast too.
Beautiful. Awesome. We'll set that up.